Riding motorcycles under any circumstances can be extremely dangerous, but when careless drivers pull right out in front of you, the results can be catastrophic. And that's exactly what happened to James Anderson and his nephew, Stephen Walter, while riding on a Wisconsin country road on a clear and warm summer day at approximately 1:30 in the afternoon on August 9th, 2001. A GMC truck, illegally and without warning, made a sharp illegal U-turn from a roadside park position, causing James to smash into the front fender of the truck and ejecting him more than 100 feet through the air, down the roadside and onto the shoulder. Wisconsin accident investigators later determined that the driver of the truck was 100% at fault for failing to observe the approaching motorcycles and turning directly into their path. And to rub salt into the wound of this already tragic situation, while James was undergoing extensive medical treatment and his case was progressing through the courts, the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled on a law indicating that if you're not wearing a helmet, although there was no helmet law in Wisconsin at that time, it could prevent you from recovering any money at all. Jason Abraham, partner at Hupy and Abraham, came to James' rescue. Today, the Insider Exclusive will show you James' true story and how Jason petitioned the Wisconsin legislature to get justice for James. Working as a team, attorneys Michael Hupy and Jason Abraham helped change the law and got James a substantial settlement. Attorney Michael Hupy lobbied the legislature to change the law, testified for the bill that eventually changed the law in both houses of the legislature, and stood by the governor's side when he signed the bill into law. Governor Jim Doyle publicly thanked attorney Michael Hupy at the bill signing ceremony and gave him the pen he used to sign the bill. Hi, I'm Steve Murphy, and this is the Insider Exclusive, live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the Hupy and Abraham Law Firm. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Jason Abraham. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
This is a case, James Anderson's case, where a motorcyclist was driving on the road, enjoying his day with his nephew, I think it was. And why don't you pick it up from there? What happened?
You know, it's a typical story of a tragedy, and what happened is Mr. Anderson and his nephew were driving their motorcycles on a beautiful country road when another driver decided to pull off towards the side, and then without looking and paying attention, immediately started making a U-turn in front of the two motorcycles.
And didn't give them any warning whatsoever?
No, I mean the warning was within a matter of feet, so there really wasn't much that could be done. The nephew put his motorcycle down and then slid, and then Mr. Anderson unfortunately hit the side of the truck.
Yeah, one of the things I read in all of the legal papers that you sent us was the fact that the driver of the pickup that pulled abruptly in front of them without warning denied that they were there in the first place. Said that they had looked in the rearview mirror, there was no motorcyclist, and therefore it was very clear path to turn into the street, correct?
Yeah, correct. And as we see in a lot of these cases, unfortunately, the person that causes the accident doesn't want to take responsibility.
Yeah.
So you have a big fight at the outset as to how you prove that the other driver is responsible.
But that was what I was going to bring up. You bring an accident investigator, and they clearly established that this person did not see them, right?
That's correct. You know, not only were accident reconstruction experts hired, the police did their own reconstruction.
Yeah.
And at first, you know, the other driver denied that she was even going to make a U-turn at the time. What she said was she saw some clouds in the distance, decided to just pull over and look at the clouds, and then the motorcycle kind of just ran into them. Or the motorcycles ran into her truck, when in reality that just doesn't make any sense at all. It's clear based on the damage to the motorcycle, the reconstruction that was done, that this vehicle, without any warning, started to make a U-turn, causing the accident.
And tell us exactly what happened to him. He hit the fender of the truck,
right?
And he was propelled in the air.
Correct.
And he went down about 100 feet down the road, didn't he?
Correct. And you know, he hit his head and had a very serious head injury, as well as other medical complications.
We're going to have him here today with his wife, But to give our audience a little background, what kind of job did he have at that time? What was his life then like?
You know, these were just simple, hardworking folks. I mean, they were married with 3 children, you know, going about their lives, just really good people. And then everything obviously was disrupted as a result of what happened in this accident. You know, a huge recovery. He was in a coma for a period of time after the accident. It required speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. And when you see him, you'll see that he's done quite well, thankfully, given the serious nature of his injuries.
I also am going to be, I think you provided us the rehabilitation services and all of the extensive work that was done with him to bring him back to some sort of semblance of being normal.
Right.
How long did that take?
Oh, it's still ongoing in some respects, but
Yeah.
it's a year's worth of physical therapy, occupational therapy, you know, to get him to where he is today. I'm proud to say that when you see him, although he still lingers from some of the effects of the accident, he's made a real nice recovery.
We're going to get into this a little bit later, but this case had also an unusual twist to it in the sense that James was not wearing a helmet, right?
Correct.
Some states require a motorcycle driver to wear a helmet.
Right.
And Wisconsin was not one of those states, correct?
It was not.
But at the time, immediately after his injury, the state Supreme Court passed a law that said, that helped the insurance industry, right? Tell us a little bit about
It did. Unfortunately, after Mr. Anderson's accident, the Supreme Court, in a unanimous decision, came down and said that although we have no helmet law in Wisconsin, an insurance company could use that against a biker involved in an accident, even if they weren't at fault for the accident.
And we have with us, a little later on the show, the state senator, Zine.
Yes.
The former state senator, who actually got a new bill passed, which kind of prevented that from happening, correct?
Correct. You know, my partner, Mike Hupy, lobbied the legislature after Mr. Anderson's accident so we could try to make a difference for him and his family.
Well, this is kind of a little bit unusual, and this is why I wanted to do this show, because not only did you represent the client, but you actually advocated to have the law changed to help people in the future.
Correct. I mean, this case had a lot of twists and turns, whether it be liability. You know, the insurance company was not taking responsibility for the accident, so I had a huge fight on my hands with respect to that.
Right.
Damages, the insurance company was fighting the case, saying Mr. Anderson wasn't hurt as bad as we said he was.
Right.
And then they tried to use to their advantage this fluke of a change of the law, you know, after the accident happened. So it had a lot of these twists and turns that we had to overcome in order to help the Anderson family.
Today, we are fortunate enough to have James and his wife Tracy here so they can tell us the personal experience that they lived through. We're going to have them on right now. It's a great privilege to introduce James and Tracy Anderson. Welcome to the show, James.
Thank you.
And welcome to the show, Tracy.
Thank you.
It means a lot to us to have you on the program because it's good for our audience to understand what you guys went through personally. The day of the accident, Jim, you go by Jim, right?
Yep.
The day of the accident, you're riding down the road having a great time, you're riding with your nephew, right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden a truck pulls out right in front of you.
Did you turn right in front of me?
And you hit the fender. How fast were you going about?
60.
And you went flying over the fender. I understand you went down the road about 100 feet.
They figure what, about 200?
75 feet after the impact, and then like another 250 feet.
Now, were you unconscious at that time?
Very
or-
unconscious.
You were very unconscious.
Yes.
Yeah. And when did you regain consciousness again?
August 20th.
So it was
it
a
was-
total period of how long that he was unconscious?
August 9th to August 20th.
Week and a half.
Yeah.
But the consciousness wasn't like you and I. It
Yeah.
was a matter of opening eyes, reacting to a voice.
Right. Do you remember the accident? Not at all. You remember hitting the truck?
Nope.
No.
I don't even remember the day. It was just so weird. I don't remember any of it.
Right.
Maybe that's good though.
Yeah, maybe it's good, you know.
The
Or
doctor said that a lot of times your brain will,
block it out.
yes, so you don't remember because it's so traumatic and so horrific at times.
Now, when were you first notified of the accident?
Probably, well, they'd tried calling me several times. There had been a storm lost power at work. They sent me home because I couldn't do anything. And on the way home, I thought, well, I'll stop and get gas. Had several phone calls on my cell phone, and I won't answer my phone while I'm pumping gas, so I didn't answer it. And I thought, what the heck are all these people calling me for? And come to find out, it was because he had been in an accident, and it was a very, very bad storm. They had called for Eagle 3, and Eagle 3 couldn't even take off because the weather was so poor.
Eagle 3
Is like Flight for Life in the Milwaukee area. So they had, and he had stopped breathing several times. They needed to do CPR and everything else. So by the time I got to the hospital, it was probably about a half an hour after he got there. Our kids were at daycare, and I picked them up, dropped them off at my niece and nephew's so that somebody was there to watch them, and went right to the hospital.
What was going through your mind?
That he was going to be dead. Just from, Mike had called my mom and said, can you call the hospital and see what they know? And when she first called, he hadn't arrived yet. And she withheld information from me because she was afraid that I was too upset already. She didn't tell me that he had stopped breathing at least twice, that they had to do CPR and stuff like that. So she had just told me that he was in critical condition and to get to the hospital as soon as we could.
Now you got to the hospital. Then what?
They take us into the family room. They don't even let us stay in the waiting room. And I knew instantly. I had been there once before. And then the doctor came in and sat us all down and sat in a little circle and said, we don't have any very good news for you. He's got about a 10, maybe 20% chance of living.
Really?
Yes. So
Because of what were the injuries?
he had a blood clot on his brainstem.
He actually basically landed on his head as he went down the road.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And he had a black eye, some little road rash here and there, and a broken foot. But the majority of his injuries were
Internal
to his head. No internal bleeding or anything like that, just the blood clot to the brainstem was the big one, and that affects your breathing, your movements,
Right.
speech, all of that.
They rushed him to...
They tried to stabilize him. They got him stabilized, and they said they were going to kind of see how the first 12 hours went. And this happened about 12:30 in the afternoon. By 4 o'clock the next morning, they had him in surgery, and they were going to remove the blood clot from his brainstem and also put a shunt in to relieve any pressure on his brain. And hopefully that would be enough. And they didn't know if he was even going to make it through surgery because he was so critical in the first place. And he did make it through surgery, and they said that was a plus. And a couple times they did try to remove the shunt from his forehead to keep the blood pressure or the brain pressure down. But every time they removed it, they had to put it back in. The pressure on his brain was too severe. And finally, that subsided, and they were able to remove it. And they said after the first week that he had like a 50% chance of living.
Right.
But they couldn't tell us if there was any brain damage or if there was, to what extent yet.
Now, you have kids.
3.
3 kids. You're spending all your time at the hospital at this
I
time.
didn't leave the hospital for the first week. I slept there, ate there, showered there.
When did you see a kind of a turn of events and improving?
Oh boy.
How long did that take?
About probably a good month to a month and a half.
And what were the first signs?
When he finally would start talking, because he had a trach.
Yeah.
So he wasn't able to talk while he had that. But once they took that out and was able to start talking, there were times that he would think I was his niece or his sister, and all I would have to do is walk out of the room, come back in, and he'd say to me, "Oh, well, it's about time you're here." But that's what your brain does. And
Yeah.
finally, after about a month and a half, that slightly started to fade, and he understood that he had to stay at the hospital. He needed to go to physical therapy and speech therapy and
Which I
occupational.
didn't like.
Yeah.
You don't like doing any of it because you knew how to do it all, and it's all been taken away from you
Yeah, you have to
so
relearn
quickly.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because now you're conscious. You kind of realize and you understand some serious changes. Did you realize that those changes would be kind of permanent in a way?
No, at that time I didn't.
Yeah.
I thought it'll change, and it didn't.
Well, you've changed dramatically from
Yeah.
the day that
They,
you...
yes.
Well,
So what did you have to do? You had to relearn how to walk, relearn how to talk,
Relearn how to write.
yeah.
relearn how to write.
Yeah.
Could not write,
No,
could not talk.
not very good.
Wow. Could you form the words in your mind though?
Yes.
But you just couldn't express them.
That, and I was quiet. Very
Yeah,
quiet.
his voice was, he had, when they had to put the breathing tube in out at the accident site, they damaged vocal cords because there was so much blood. They couldn't
Really?
see. So that's why his voice
Unfortunately.
his voice was very powerful before. And now
Right.
and he had surgery several times to try and improve the quality of his voice so it wasn't so, I don't want to say scratchy, but
Yeah.
so.
And how long did this recovery and rehabilitation, it's still ongoing?
Actually, personally, yes.
Yes.
As far as going to somewhere to have them do some sort of surgery, not surgery, rehabilitation, I don't do.
Yeah. You don't have to do that.
No.
No.
So when you say personally, talk about personal improvement.
It's part of that stubbornness that I just refuse to give up something, and they're not going to come back.
That's great. Like, what are the things you're working on now?
Walking,
Walking.
Yes.
You walked in here pretty good.
It's a flat surface.
I tend to stumble.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's
Is that
like,
because of, balancing or what?
Yes.
Really?
My balance isn't very good.
and that was affected by the blood clot on his
Excellent.
brainstem. That was the major thing that really, that and his breathing for a long time, he was on a ventilator because his brain didn't know enough to always breathe. He never stopped on his own when he was hooked up to the ventilator, but a lot of times he would not breathe as normally as
Yes.
you and I. But grass is a bit of a challenge. And of course, our kids play soccer,
Right.
football.
Right.
So
And I'll do it.
Yeah. Now, before the accident, what did you do for a living?
I was, unfortunately, I worked for a garbage company.
Okay. I noticed that when I said before the accident, what did you do? And you went,
everything.
Everything.
Anything. He was, I mean, so active
Yeah.
in different hunting, fishing, golfing, different, he would shoot pool, he shot darts, in the winter and stuff like that. In the summer, like I said, it was
Yeah.
golfing or,
Trap.
shooting trap and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And a lot of it has been eliminated,
I read-
unfortunately.
I read in your evaluation report that you felt obviously frustrated that you
Yes.
can't do a lot of these things. So how do you work with the issue of acceptance?
A lot of times the kids will help me sometimes, or the wife will help me sometimes, or the
Yeah.
brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
I won't do it because I can't.
Yeah.
Because you have that where you get shaky.
Yeah.
Like hammering nail. I mean, I never thought about it before. Now I can't do it.
Can't
Without-
hammer a nail.
Hitting
I was
my
gonna say
finger.
that, Yeah,
And
something
to me,
so
that
simple.
is so dumb. But
Well, it's even for you, it's amazing to see this transformation and the change. And
Oh.
it must have required a lot of patience.
It did.
And love.
Oh,
on your part.
definitely. Everybody says, "Oh, you must really love them," and I'm like, "Yeah, I do." I said, but a lot of times it was, because he had a feeding tube for a long time after he even
Yeah.
got out of the hospital, and I said, "So, you hook up the bottle and you put his medicine in there because he wasn't able to eat for so long." After he got out of the hospital, I said it
and
was,
I hated that.
and I said, it was
What,
kind.
you couldn't eat yourself?
No,
No?
he
Oh.
couldn't. And he lost his sense of smell, which knock on wood, was kind of a good thing, at least at that point, because if I was making supper,
Yeah.
he couldn't smell it.
But being a hunter, when you can't smell like skunks,
Yeah. Yeah. Or even if there's a fire in our house, he's
I won't
kind
know.
of,
That's today too?
yeah,
Yeah.
he's still, all these
Once
years
you're
later.
spending
Now,
It's
do you
gone.
find that gradually these senses are coming back? No?
no. Once
That-
it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
I have to hand it to you. You know, you as a couple, you're great. You're great. You know,
You,
You're
you
great.
learn to really work as a team. And we've kind of reversed roles now.
Yeah.
I work full time and he's there for the kids. And as the kids get older, in theory, they need him less.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily less, it's in different ways. The older they get, the more help they need with their homework. He is an absolute whiz and always has been at math. That has
Great.
never gone away. The doctors were absolutely amazed at his math skills. And I
Thank God.
yeah, exactly, because after third grade, forget it. But he helps the kids with their homework after school, football practice, then there's dance and soccer and everything else. So,
Well, the kids.
yeah, he's there for that aspect. I was there the first, 7 years. I was a stay-at-home mom. And then shortly before his accident, I would say maybe about 6 months before that, I started working full-time.
Right.
So we kind of switched roles, and now he's kind of the stay-at-home dad. But
Doing a good job, isn't he?
yes, very good, because I don't have to worry, very, very seldom do I have to worry if the kids are sick. I don't have to miss work. He's there if there's a doctor appointment or anything like that. It works out very nice, especially now that he's able to drive, because for about 2 years he couldn't
Oh,
drive and
You
stuff.
can drive now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
So
Stay up sidewalk.
yeah. But yeah, it works out very nicely, and fairly soon our oldest son will be able to drive.
So gradually, now it's been how long? How many years?
Just over 8.
8.
Yeah, gradually things are improving.
Yes.
Stick-to-itiveness, huh?
Yes.
Don't
Yeah.
give up.
No, and that's a lot
And that's
of it.
the spirit, isn't
yeah,
it?
that's what his neurologist told him for a long time. If you're stubborn and you really work at something, you may not perfect it, but you'll get better at it, and you'll see smaller gains at this stage of the recovery, but you will still see them. And I still do. Years ago, I would say 4 years ago, he couldn't walk on grass at all. Now he can do it. He does a little stumble step here and there.
I look like I'm drunk.
But when there's potholes and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that happens
Yes.
to anybody.
Yeah.
But he does much better now than he did just a few years ago even.
It's funny, when I first was in the hospital, the doctor told me, he said, "You probably never walk again." I said, "Yeah, well." He said, "I don't think so." "Yeah, well," I said. He goes, "Well, if you want to try." And I did. And I fell down.
Yeah.
But
Get back up.
I won't quit.
That's good. All of us have enjoyed having you here. And,
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. You're a great couple.
Thank you.
And keep it up. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my great privilege to introduce former State Senator Dave Zine.
Yep.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, you and Jason together sought to change the Wisconsin law regarding helmets. Can you tell us a little bit about how that happened?
Well, after the Anderson accident, the Supreme Court came down in a unanimous decision saying that the insurance company could use a biker's failure to wear a helmet against him in a personal injury action. My partner, Mike Hupy, and I decided at that point that we needed to do something about that. And Mike actually went to the legislature to try to change the law. Thankfully, in Wisconsin, with Harley-Davidson being located here, we have a lot of motorcycle-friendly legislators like Dave. Mike Hupy then talked to Dave Zine, and then the ball started rolling to change the law.
And when they approached you, what was your immediate reaction?
I couldn't believe it, Steve.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea about the state Supreme Court ruling until they brought it to our attention. And I'm kind of like the go-to-it person for sportsmen's issues, veterans issues, patriotic issues, motorcycle issues. So immediately we had a bill written by our Legislative Reference Bureau and our Legislative Council attorneys, and we got the ball rolling, passed a law.
Now,
Thanks
what-
for bringing it to our attention.
What is the law in Wisconsin today?
Well, the law in Wisconsin today says that unless you're suing a product manufacturer for a defective helmet, an insurance company cannot use a biker's failure to wear a helmet against them in a personal injury case unless the law mandates wearing a helmet. In Wisconsin, unless you have a learner's permit or you're a minor, you're not required to wear a helmet. So unless you're required to wear a helmet, an insurance company can no longer use that against a victim of an accident.
I understand towards the end, when the governor was about to sign this law into effect, the insurance company sued your client
Yeah,
to prevent you guys from recovering.
Yeah, the insurance company tried to do an end around against us, and the law was saying that it would not apply to cases unless they were filed before the change in the law. We were able to get this passed specifically to help Mr. Anderson, and what they tried to do was on the eve of the governor signing the bill, with my partner Mike Hupy standing right next to the governor, the insurance company sued us to get us into court to try to have the old law apply. Thankfully we were able to convince the insurance company with some case law that was not going to be successful, and then we're able to settle Mr. Anderson's case for a substantial sum of money.
Do you wear a helmet when you ride a motorcycle, Dave?
Absolutely not, ever, unless I'm in a state that requires it. And a lot of times I wait until we stop, then I put it back.
Okay. I see in California that folks wear we have a mandatory helmet law, but some of the helmets that they wear are like helmet liners that you used to put on your helmet in the service, which are kind of useless if you ever get in an accident.
I believe that helmets restrict vision, hearing, mobility of the head. They cause accidents. That added weight. I've had a broken neck and a broken back in Vietnam, and I've had a broken neck since then. But that added weight actually hurts my head. And if I were to be in an accident, that added momentum could just snap my neck, be totally paralyzed. So I choose not to wear a helmet. I want to be absolutely sensitive to the environment.
Okay. And you're a long-term motorcycle aficionado, aren't you?
I have, the Lord's blessed me with about 2.2 million miles on motorcycle, and I'm still going. And
Harley Davidson just gave you a motorcycle, didn't he?
I'm the first person in history to put 1 million miles on one machine, one motorcycle. Harley Davidson gave me one in April 6th, and I have 78,000 miles on the new motorcycle.
Wow. You ride it all the time.
Not in the winter, not in the snow and ice. No, Steve, no.
Your firm is known for representing a lot of motorcyclists in accidents, aren't they?
We are. We represent more injured motorcyclists than anyone in the Midwest.
Yeah.
I'm proud to say I ride. We're at the forefront of motorcycle-related issues. I'm also proud to say I was standing right next to Dave when Harley presented him with his new motorcycle,
Yeah.
and I was the last person to ride the old motorcycle before Harley took it over, and we're going to put it in a museum.
Well, I want to thank both of you for being on the program.
Hey,
thank you very
thanks,
much.
Steve. Good.
And thank you
so much.
Thanks for watching. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at www.insiderexclusive.tv.